line. And also these persons have first name, last name. So when you really want to extract them, you maybe need an entity extraction algorithm somehow. And yeah, you can use function ontology function here. Then you get a fairly complex graph out of it. And then I thought, okay, can we not, or cannot the function return in full RDF graph for each cell in a turtle syntax? And then we introduce a new term type graph here. And then this graph here is added to the actual result, but also certain selected objects are mapped because you could return an arbitrary large graph, but you just want to map specific ones. So there's also this construct of these special selected objects where you can point to them and say, I just want to have these two persons as author. And then we also have their metadata and the result later on. So these are these two experimental features. Okay, yeah, because it's just a demo paper, this is already the end of the presentation. So yeah, we implemented this Excel support in the RML mapper. This works. You can try it out in a demo page. There you can have, we show different scenarios and you can try out the features. And yeah, there's also GitHub code, which is actually a fork of the RML mapper, where the edit code is inside. Yeah, and also some other things which might be of interest and is kind of related. I also have a demo paper about data set generation, which is used for evaluating knowledge graph construction. And it actually creates from knowledge graph messy spreadsheets. Yeah, so this is somehow related. And also we have research projects and say, just to mention. Okay, yeah. So thanks for your attention. Are there any questions?
Okay, thank you very much for this nice presentation. There's one question from Christoph. He said, just to confirm, are function calls in the Excel sheet evaluated before transforming them?
Can you say it again?
He wants to know if the function calls in the Excel sheet are evaluated before transforming.
So you mean actually the formulas in the Excel? Yeah, so usually Excel stores the formulas, the result of the formulas, and can access that. There is currently no implementation that you evaluate the functions again. I guess you could do it with the POI library, but for now I, so to say, access with these values the pre-calculated results of the functions. But you can also get the formula and evaluate it yourself. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So if there are some more questions, please unmute yourself or type in the chat. I have one question around the extension over the RML mapper. I mean, I was wondering which is the difficult to extend. I mean, how much time do you invert over the extension of RML mapper, as if this conceptual station should be included in other engines?
Yeah, so actually in RML mapper it was fairly easy to extend it. So when you know the structure of the project and know what classes you have to implement, it was fairly easy. So that's why we also took this tool, because for us, yeah, it was open source. It was directly seeable what it does. You can debug it in Java, and we could directly use this library here. But yeah, when you have other engines, I guess it's also possible to do it. So the idea would be later on, yeah, when an engine would directly or can also implement such a logical source here, and yeah, can then read in the workbook, get the cells from the sheet, and provide it in the RML mapping process.
Mm-hmm. I think is there one question from Sergio? Go ahead.
Thank you. I was just wondering if there will be any Visual Basic for application support in the future. Like for example, if we want to implement specific native functions to do some data transformations or before the mappings, for example.
Before the mappings, yeah, so actually what I used always is the function ontology, because it somehow will be part of the standard later on. So that's why these scenarios I had, like extracting only the bold text also, is something that you access the data and get your HTML, for example, and then process it in a function from the function ontology.
Okay. Is there is another question?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. My question is majorly for how do you detect or how do you know that there is a cell which is multi-valued? And yes, this is the question.
Yeah, actually, this is done by the one who writes the mapping, and then he has to decide what to do, he or she. So yeah, the mapping expert, so to say, looks at the cell and decides, okay, this is in that way, and that's why I write my mapping this in that way. So there's no automation. You define it, but now you have the possibility to define it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we have already discussed about this sometimes, and also from CSV on the web, you can use some properties if you want to separate the values because they provide that information, but it's about metadata. Okay. Yeah, I mean, there is one question from Christoph that about the slides and if the slides will be shared. I mean, if all of the authors will be agree, we will upload the slides to the website of the workshop. Okay. During this week, so we will put like a message in the Slack channel. Okay. So I think that if there is any other question, please go to the Slack channel or in the chat of the Zoom call. Thank you very much for your presentation.